My boyfriend had been with me for 8 years, someone I was once sure would be my future husband. We lived together, shared every moment, and supported each other through every challenging phase of our careers. I trusted him completely. Until one day, with just a few clicks on Instagram, the world I had built with him came crashing down to nothing. He didn't just cheat on me, he was living a completely different life, with another woman, and was about to marry her. The truth was revealed like a cold knife, piercing straight through my trust, and I was forced to face the question, how do I escape the hell of a deceitful relationship that I once thought was fate? I met Ray when I was 18. That age when you're still naive, easily infatuated, and drawn to things that sparkle, especially when the person is the lead singer of the band I had admired since I was a child. Ray is almost 10 years older than me. When we met, I was just an intern working behind the scenes for a music video production company. It felt like a relationship straight out of a movie, a young girl working with her idol, and then the two of them falling in love. Everything started off so wonderfully. We were inseparable, taking walks together, working together, and enjoying the sense of freedom, youth, and love that filled our lives. Ray was always the one who seemed to understand me, from the pressure of studying, to the times I was exhausted working on my thesis, to when I pursued a graduate program in screenwriting. He was there, gentle and patient, always supporting every step I took. At that time, Ray wasn't just my boyfriend, he was like a teacher, a rare companion in the competitive world of the arts. Since we both worked freelance, our schedules were often irregular, and long distance or working opposite time zones was normal. He often flew to California to meet with clients, and I occasionally had projects there as well. 3 years ago, I moved in with Ray. We officially became a mature couple, no longer the dreamy, youthful love of our 20s, but a stable, committed, and deep relationship. I even thought about marriage. Every time he returned home after a long business trip, we'd spend time together, and I started to feel like maybe he was about to propose. Though I had no concrete evidence, perhaps because I was so in love, I had started imagining a sweet future. But everything collapsed in an instant. One moment I missed him, and I went to his Instagram to find some cute photos to ease the longing. I accidentally clicked on the tagged tab, a feature that seemed harmless and something I never paid attention to before. And then I saw her. A woman I didn't recognize, blonde hair, kissing Ray on the cheek in a photo. At first, I thought she might be a fan. But as I scrolled down, I saw more intimate pictures. Something wasn't right. When I tried to access her personal profile, I found that I'd been blocked. My intuition told me I needed to know the truth. I logged into my company account, an action that might have been wrong, but now I don't regret it. Her personal page was almost like an album of love, full of pictures of her and Ray, travel photos, dinners, playful moments, and then a picture of her with a ring on her finger, with Ray smiling brightly behind her. The caption, "I said yes," exploded in my head like a bomb. They were engaged, they were a couple, an open couple. And what was I? Just someone in the shadows of a fake relationship that had lasted nearly a decade? I wanted to scream, to throw up, to disappear from this world right away. But the thing that hurt the most wasn't his betrayal. It was that he had hidden an entirely different life from me all those years, still holding me in his arms every night, still looking me in the eyes without blinking. The pain after discovering the truth hit me like a tsunami, drowning me and leaving me unable to distinguish between the shore and the bottom. I looked at Ray, the person I had loved for 8 years, and suddenly saw a complete stranger. He still walked around the apartment as if nothing had happened, still asked if I wanted anything to eat, still smiled at me as though the world had never shattered. I sat there, frozen, my mind spinning, my heart heavy. In my mind, there was only one question. How could he? 3 days since he returned from California, where he had just gotten engaged to another woman, I still hadn't said a word to him. I hadn't told him that I knew. Every time I tried to speak, my throat would tighten, the words stuck between pain and fear. I didn't know which terrified me more, hearing more lies, or the possibility that he wouldn't say a word, only confirming everything with his indifference. I felt like a ghost in my own life. We still lived together, still ate at the same table, but I could no longer feel his presence the way I once did. All the gestures that used to warm my heart, a hand held, an embrace from behind, now sent a chill down my spine. I began noticing details I had once overlooked: his constant last-minute meetings, or his habit of forgetting to bring his phone out of the bedroom, the times he avoided talking about the future, or always steered clear of introducing me to his closest friends. The picture of lies slowly pieced itself together. I felt myself being dragged back into the past, trying to trace the memories to see just how blind I had been. I remembered the times he disappeared for a week without explanation, only to return with a soft apology and a small gift. I had once thought it was romance, a busy artist still thinking of his lover. Now I realized it was the tactic of a two-faced man, acting like a devoted boyfriend to me while being a sweet fiancé to her. As I struggled with the hurt, I also wrestled with another uncomfortable emotion. I still loved him. I knew it was crazy, but I couldn't deny it. How could I sever feelings for someone who had been part of my life throughout my youth, someone I had once thought was my other half? My heart clung to hope, that it was a misunderstanding, that he would apologize, that he would choose me. But then I thought, why should I be the one to be chosen? I'm not an option for someone to weigh. I am a person, a woman of value, not a shadow in some twisted love story. I began considering leaving. But that wasn't easy. We lived together, and I had nowhere to move to immediately. My job was unstable, my savings were minimal since I had spent most of the years focusing on my studies and pursuing art. He had always been the one to bear most of the financial burden. The dependence I had once thought was shared responsibility had become shackles. I was torn between silently finding a way to move out and having a clear conversation with him. Part of me wanted to reveal everything immediately, slam his engagement photo and the woman's onto the table and scream it all out. But another part whispered that I needed to plan. I needed to stay calm. I needed to leave with my head held high, without shouting, without begging, without hurting myself further. In the sleepless nights, I wrote hundreds of scripts in my mind. What I would say, how he would respond, how I would leave. But every script began with one inevitable pain: the truth that the man I had loved with all my heart had never been real. I had lived like a ghost in my own apartment for nearly a week, but in the end, I couldn't take it anymore. That night, I sat silently in the living room, holding a photo of Katie, the woman who was engaged to Ray, with my other hand tightly gripping the phone I had used to log into the company account and uncover the whole truth. Ray had just stepped out of the bathroom, a towel draped over his shoulders, looking as relaxed as if nothing had happened. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice calm but firm. He froze, his eyes widening slightly, momentarily startled. "What's up?" I held up the photo. "Who is she?" Ray looked at the photo, and I swear he stayed silent for 3 seconds. But to me, those 3 seconds were the longest of my life. Then he smirked, put the towel down, and walked toward me. "It's not what you think," he began, the most cliched excuse used by anyone who's ever betrayed someone. "She's wearing an engagement ring, Ray. Everyone's congratulating her, and there you are, right next to her, grinning. That's not what I think?" He hesitated, then seemed to switch into another role, the remorseful man. He said he was sorry, that he'd lost his way, that he was torn between two worlds, that he loved both of us, couldn't choose. That I was the one who understood him better than anyone else, that we had a special connection he couldn't let go of. I sat there, watching him cry. And surprisingly, I didn't cry. I felt strangely calm. "I don't need you to choose, Ray. I don't need to be any kind of option in your life. I've been your girlfriend for 8 years, and you've treated me like a shadow, a backdrop for your real life. I deserve more than that." I stood up, went to the room, locked the door, and that night, I couldn't sleep. I just packed everything important: my laptop, papers, notebooks, a few clothes, and the cat's things. The next morning, when Ray was still sleeping, I left the apartment. I left the key on the table and an engagement photo of him with a simple note: "I know everything, and I'm done with you." I took a taxi to the train station, my hands shaking, but my heart oddly light. I called John, my longtime friend from Portland. Though we hadn't spoken in a while, as soon as I spoke, he asked, "Are you okay?" Without needing to explain much, John booked a flight and promised to pick me up. He even brought a small gift, a bottle of maple syrup I used to love, some whiskey, and a bag of fragrant coffee. We didn't talk much on the way to his house. John just lightly held my hand, a gentle squeeze, no probing questions, no pity. When we arrived, I took a shower, had a bowl of hot soup, and slept for almost 16 hours. When I woke up, I found the cat lying quietly beside me, soft light streaming through the window, and in that moment, I understood that I had crossed a huge threshold in my life. I was no longer the woman who begged for love from a two-faced man. I was the one who had dared to walk away. And that was the first act that brought me back to myself. The early days in Portland felt like a long rain after a drought. Everything was damp, heavy, yet gentle. I didn't cry, didn't feel angry, nor resentful. I just felt empty. But it was in that emptiness that I began to be filled with things I had forgotten. Peace, kindness, and the sense of being myself. John, an old friend, now my housemate, never asked me for details of what had happened. He simply let me share when I was ready. Instead, he took me on walks around the neighborhood, introducing me to the neighbors as though I were a natural part of this world. He cooked every night, always asking me what I wanted to eat, even though my usual answer was, anything's fine. And in each of those small acts, I felt genuine care, something I didn't even know I was missing. I also started therapy. My therapist, Janet, is an older woman whose gaze seems to see through every crack in my soul. In the first few sessions, I was shy, only offering brief snippets of my story. But Janet wasn't in a hurry, nor did she force me to dredge up painful memories. She helped me understand that the worst thing wasn't being betrayed, but the fact that I had once believed I didn't deserve anything better. I thought a lot about the years that had passed, about how I had loved Ray, how I had forgiven him every time he disappeared without explanation, how I had overlooked my doubts simply because I didn't want to face the truth. I hadn't just loved a man, I had loved an illusion. And the most painful part was that I had enabled that illusion to exist for 8 years. Ray still tried to contact me. At first, it was long messages, apologies, justifications, then gradually turning to anger and threats. He even hired a private detective to find me, as if I were a lost object. But John, always one step ahead, had hired a lawyer and helped me file for a restraining order. When Ray received the official notice, all contact stopped. I know many will ask, why didn't you tell Katie? The answer is, I thought about it. But in the end, I realized I didn't want to be involved in Ray's world anymore, not even through confronting his fiancée. I chose to keep the peace for myself. If the truth reached her, I hoped it would come from somewhere else. Not from me, the person who was learning how to live again. One more thing I didn't expect. I got HPV from Ray. Though it was fortunately detected early and treated, the feeling of physical betrayal was another blow to my already shattered trust. I felt angry, disgusted, even filthy, not because of the disease, but because of who brought it to me. One night, in a fit of rage, I smashed a bottle of liquor on the table and screamed in the living room. The neighbors called the police, and I was arrested for disturbing the peace. I was put into an anger management program and had to attend AA meetings. At first, I felt humiliated, but then I met others who were also fighting with themselves. I began to understand. Healing doesn't come from forgetting or forgiving right away. It comes from facing it, and I began to face, for the first time in my life, myself. A year has passed, and I've stepped out of the shadows of my past, not quickly, but with small steps. It feels as though I'm lost in a new world, where I'm no longer haunted by the memories of Ray and the wasted years. I've started finding myself again, not through relationships, but by taking control of my own life. John and I continued to be good friends. We shared peaceful moments, cooking together in the evenings, and talking about everything in life. Our relationship wasn't a rushed romance. It was a deep friendship that naturally turned into something more. John has always been the one who understands me best, never forcing anything, just always there when I need him. He didn't just help me get through a difficult time, he became the best friend I've ever had. In one way or another, my life has changed. I decided to start over, not just as a woman who had been hurt, but as someone who could stand strong and begin anew. I enrolled in programming courses. a field I had dreamed of for a long time, but never had the chance to try. The nights spent coding, solving tough problems weren't easy, but I never gave up. I learned about web design and began taking on small freelance projects. Gradually, I gained trust and recognition from clients. One of the significant moments in my journey was when I received an email from a company I had applied to earlier. They notified me that I had been selected for a web design internship. It felt like a new door had opened, not just for my career, but for the opportunity to prove that I could stand on my own without needing anyone else. I was now able to support myself and take control of my future. I started attending meetups and workshops about technology. I met new people who shared the same passion and vision. Conversations with them were no longer trivial chatter, but exchanges about dreams, the future, and what I truly wanted to achieve. And I realized that I had forgotten I had a dream of my own, not to live in the shadow of a man, but to build my own career and future. Earlier this year, John and I began a romantic relationship. I was ready for it, not because I needed a man to feel complete, but because I knew I deserved real love. John wasn't just a great friend, but also the man I could trust and love without fear. He loved me for who I am, not for who I am in the eyes of others. We weren't rushing. We enjoyed every moment together, building a strong foundation. But the most important thing was that I realized I didn't need to go back to the past to find happiness. I had learned to forgive myself. Letting go of everything Ray had done wasn't because I no longer felt pain, but because I realized I deserved better things, to be loved and cherished. The wounds in my heart slowly healed, not because they disappeared, but because I chose to live with them strongly and resiliently. I'm no longer controlled by the past. I understand that even when life sometimes falls apart, I can still rise and start over. And this time, I won't let anyone define my worth. I've become myself, and that is the most important thing. From now on, I will live the life I've always dreamed of, not for anyone else, but because I deserve it. Even though I sometimes look back at the past, I smile because I've overcome those challenges. I've found myself again, and now I'm enjoying a life I never thought possible. I no longer fear looking toward the future. I'm ready to embrace the new things life has to offer. And most importantly, I know that I'm never alone on this journey anymore. If you're reading this story and feeling heartbroken by what you've been through, please remember that you're not alone. Sometimes, life throws challenges at us that seem impossible to overcome, but never give up hope. Every wound can be an opportunity for healing, and every failure is a valuable lesson to start over again. Remember, you deserve to be loved, respected, and to live the life you dream of. Don't let anyone, whether a relationship or your past, dim the light within you. Believe in yourself and keep moving forward, even when the path seems dark. As long as you persist, you will find the light at the end of the road. You don't have to do everything alone. Seek support from loved ones, from friends who truly understand and are ready to walk alongside you. Love yourself, because only when you love yourself can you create healthy and happy relationships. Stay strong. You can do it. This story comes to an end here. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe so we can get more motivation to create the next videos. Thank you for listening, goodbye, and see you next time.